Good afternoon, everyone. This is Juan Villegas, chair of the JPA meeting between the County of Orange and the City of Santa Ana. And I would like to call the meeting to order. If we can all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready to begin? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. Please be seated. Ms. Yesenia Cruz, if you could please call roll. Roll call, please.
Chair Villegas.
Present.
Vice Chair Silsby.
Present.
Member Moet.
Present.
Member Palumbo.
Present.
Member Mayor. Absent, I believe. Okay.
Is that it? We have a quorum. Okay, very good. Thank you. At this time, I would like to ask if there's any member of the public that would like to make comments. Did we receive anything?
No, we did not.
Okay, seeing no one in the audience who wants to make a comment, we're going to move on. We're going to close that, and we're going to move on to item number 1, which is the Orange County Sheriff's Department OC Jail fencing project. Is there a presentation on this?
Yeah, it's a very brief 5-minute presentation.
Ramon, if you could go ahead. Go ahead, sir.
Sir, first, just a minor correction. It's not actually the OC jail. It's the OC headquarters fencing project. But we're all in the same complex, so no issues there. But
Noted.
yeah, we're actually just presenting really the portion that affects the area within view of the city of Santa Ana, mostly on the south side of the facility. But just a really brief background of this project.
So Ramon, real quick, can you just introduce yourself? Who's here with you for the record? It's being recorded. Thank you.
Ramon Tadros. I'm a senior project manager with the Orange County Sheriff's Department, and I have a representative from the headquarters, from the facility commander at headquarters, Candace Abishan, manager, representing Captain Sawyer and Lieutenant Puckett. Captain Sawyer is the facility commander of record at OC Sheriff's Headquarters. So this project was a result of a threat assessment done by OCAYAC, who's sort of our intelligence bureau arm of the Orange County Sheriffs, and they did a pretty comprehensive threat assessment several years ago and determined that there's a lot of very penetratable parts of the facility, from the actual headquarters entrance on the front of the building, and especially on the back end where the parking, the lower parking is off of the Santa Ana Boulevard or Santa Ana Street. So we identified several means of increasing security measures around our facility, and that included the items that you see above there. And our goal was to make sure that we're in harmony with the city of Santa Ana and the general Civic Center area, so we're not, we don't stand out as far as the wall or the wrought iron fencing or any of that stuff. So we intentionally drove around and made sure that we actually identified the City of Santa Ana PD as the kind of the look that we wanted to emulate for our block wall. So if you look towards the sort of the south side of the building, south side of the building there on Santa Ana, that's, you kind of see an overhead of the canopy of the trees that we plan to remove because they're in the path of the block wall, the footing of the block wall that will be installed. So again, where that red line is, outline is, that's a block wall closed off for security purposes. To the left of that, it's a vehicle gate, a rolling gate or bifold gate, and then some bollards in front of the headquarters facility itself where the yellow is, and then the blue on the right and left is wrought iron. Again, those are the highest 3 threats that were noted by our OCAYAC team are being identified as part of the scope of this project. Basically how to stop the largest threat towards the building from a vehicle or from pedestrian entry. So this is a rendering of kind of the finished product from a schematic that we've put together. So those bollards are on the front end on the north end of the building. And if you're looking from this side, it's the south, I believe it's the southwest, southeast corner. Sorry, I can't see from there. And that wall, the rendering there is kind of what we plan to put all around. So you'll see greenery all the way to the top, bar the top foot of that block wall. And so we want to keep that same look that we saw around the Civic Center and also make it green. And that again would be the place where the gate would be for our rear parking lot, lower parking lot. We are the 6th largest sheriff's department in the nation, and we're probably one of the least secured facilities in that regard compared to other departments. Obviously, Santa Ana is pretty well protected as far as their headquarters. So this was kind of long overdue, but the funding for it was finally attained recently. So that's why we started moving on this project. And this is the front end of the building. And again, just to give you the whole overview of the entire project, but that's pretty much it. Our plan is to remove approximately 18 trees, mostly maple and pine trees on the front end. And we're doing that early on in the project to avoid being late into nesting season where we're going to have more issues with birds in the trees at that time. So this will be a start, and then we're going to continue construction probably in about a 4 to 5 months period after we have plan approval from OC Public Works, the planning department. So you'll see kind of a pause in construction, but we're trying to stay ahead of nesting season for the tree removal. And we've we've retained a biologist, ecologist to make sure that before we move the trees, there's a study done to make sure nothing's in the trees at the time prior to removal. So that's pretty much it in a nutshell.
Great, thank you. It looks good. Is there any? I have a question regarding the trees for Gerardo Moet or for Ron Ono from the city. Because what's going to happen when they remove these trees? What's
So it's a question
the understanding here?
after the sheriff department and Ron can weigh in.
Gerardo, if you can state
Yes.
your name and the title.
This is Gerardo Moet. I'm member of the Civic Center Authority. And is part of this project going to also replace the 18 trees or have funding available to have those trees somewhere else?
You know, at this point, one of the security logistics brought up by the captain was we don't want the ability to have somebody climb a tree and be able to. Yeah. So it wasn't something that he preferred as, again, part of why we're doing this project.
Sure. Yeah, no, so what I wasn't necessarily thinking of that, because the 18 trees are in the way where the wall's going to be. I get that. I'm not necessarily thinking that the trees would be right there, the new trees,
right.
The replacement trees. But trees are important for the community, and the second presentation after this one is going to be about a Civic Center regional park. So obviously, in park, trees are important. So I was wondering if there can be consideration in the sheriff department. So not right away, but to be able to fund. Obviously, there won't be mature trees; they would be less expensive. But something that would make sense as we move forward in the planning of a Civic Center regional park.
Absolutely. Consideration, absolutely. I think we, as far as funding, I'm sure all around the county, not just probably the city as well.
Yeah.
That major restrictions on expanding any scope or anything else. So we've been told to actually downsize the scope because of funding issues on this project. We are just finalizing plans to go for plan check, and obviously that we don't know what's entailed and what recommendations are made. So once the funding is secured for the main scope of the project, which is the wall and the wrought iron fencing, is actually absolutely consideration for how many trees we can fit, if any, in the budget.
And the funding for the project is from the sheriff department?
It's CEO funded.
CEO, okay. So it's not really, the Civic Center Authority is not being asked to fund it and all that. However, though, these trees have been part of the Civic Center common area. So again, for the record, I'd like the sheriff department and the county to think about how, it's almost like a reimbursement, but it won't be, you wouldn't be able, it's not going to recover a mature tree, but 18 new trees to place elsewhere in the common areas in the Civic Center area when the time comes. So that's just really my point.
Okay. It's noted, and I think we'd like to make sure we stay good neighbors. That's part of the reason why we're here today. And I've reached out to several members of, Ron.
Yes.
I've never met you in person, just we're pen pals. But we reached out saying if we can provide new trees, what kind of canopies and sizes and colors, to stay, again, I know you guys have sort of a plan throughout the city But again, all that is sort of pending what our budget availability is, and it'll be, once we get a confirmed cost and construction's underway and we know what we can accomplish with our funding, that's definitely a consideration.
Just for the board's,
If you can get a microphone.
my name is Ron Ono. Just for the board's information, we have been in contact with the sheriff's department and indicated that the trees, some of the trees need to be replaced. The concern is trees overhanging the wall. So our proposal was to follow the Civic Center somewhat signature tree, which is the date palm in some area, not necessarily ringing the whole area with date palms, but at least a presence of some date palm to frame the Civic Center property, and then the rest we'll have to work out what the plant material would be with the project manager.
Thank you. Mr. Vice Chair, any comment?
Yes, thank you very much. When I was approaching this is Vice Chair Silsby, I recommended that even though this is not a Civic Center Authority asset, that it does mesh with the framework of what's going on here. So for information for everybody, I recommended they bring it to the authority. And I recommended that they work with city staff on the aesthetics and what the city would want to see if they were permitting it, even though they're not. I believe that's occurred. And with that, Chair, I would recommend that we do the adjustments to the title as requested, and I would move a receive and file of this item.
Thank you very much for bringing it to the committee, and yes, receive and file. Let's move on to item number 2, Civic Center Regional Park Master Plan presentation.
Sure. There's a PowerPoint that Hiram's going to help us get going. Let's start up. The concept of the Civic Center being a park has some history. So for many years, we've talked about not only is there a need for additional parks in the city of Santa Ana, but historically, when the city incorporated as a city, it was still part of LA County, and when the county incorporated, Santa Ana became the county center of government, and so from that point on, there was this. It started with the old county courthouse, and it became a civic center area, and so the entire 3.1 million and change of the population in Orange County sees the Civic Center as their government center, where County Hall of Administration comes in. People come to Superior Court, the federal courthouse, and we have all of these thousands and thousands of government employees, state, federal, county, city, court, come every day, and then the public comes in every day for marriage license or jury duty or records or city hall business, whatever the case may be. And the original design of the common areas for the Civic Center was for the public to enjoy. And what this proposal is to consider, for the Civic Center Authority to consider, that we'll come back in May to ask for funding for a master plan development for a Civic Center regional park. So now I'm going to go through this PowerPoint really quickly. I wanted to give you a little context on that. I was asked by our city manager, Raul Godinez, to bring this forth, move this concept along, to develop the concept. And so that is the perimeter of what we would propose makes sense for a Civic Center regional park. Of course, it includes the stadium, because the stadium brings in lots of people different in the events. The parking structure makes sense to the Civic Center, and then it goes all the way to the county courthouse on the east side, so the west side, and then on the south side, it incorporates Sasser Park, the little park over there across Santa Ana Boulevard. You can see the fountain, and to the north, of course, just north of the courthouse and the library. And if you go to the next slide. So just very briefly, there are lots of benefits to think about. When you think about the density of this city and the surrounding areas, the downtown Santa Ana, in fact, really within a radius, this is part of the downtown, but frequently it doesn't feel like it is because of the street configuration. It's not as inviting for walking. There could be more walking. There could be more interface if there were more programming and positive programming in the Civic Center. And so there could be more of a fluid, like just a big area, a really fun, active area. So you'll see here that, first of all, as I mentioned earlier, there's a need for more parks. Then the areas around very important buildings in the Civic Center, like the city's main library, the law library, City Hall, County Hall of Administration, other government buildings, will provide a better design common area as a regional park so that visitors, jurors, employees, and the general public can enjoy beautifully designed common areas in this new regional park. Will offer the public a sense of place, a sense of belonging, and help social alienation, vandalism, and violence. Next slide. Being that the park will be in the heart of the county's center of government, youth will be more easily participate and develop a strong sense of community, citizenship, and an appreciation in the democratic and public services system. Let me pause here. So there are lots of judges, lots of lawyers in particular in the Civic Center. And just like the Orange County High School of the Arts created this magnet for Orange County youth to come and explore arts and culture, I believe there is more and more interest in all of public education, all charter schools, all private schools in the county, to have a lot of young people develop their sense of leadership skills, their interest in law, in those types of careers. And the Civic Center is just a beautiful campus to provide the public and the youth in the county that kind of potential experience, coming to a courthouse and working. So there's a significance to the one and only government center for the county, to also the common areas to be this park, this campus, if you will, for people to enjoy. In addition, in 2014, I helped facilitate the South Coast Repertory Theater they had a grant where they actually did a community theater here in the Civic Center. It was an amazing success. It was funded by the Irvine Foundation. And things like that can happen more as a regional park, community theater, art exhibits, concert, poetry, storytelling in the common areas. Then it will provide a safe place for people either during work days, but also and primarily on the weekends, because on the weekends, some of us come to the Civic Center because we have work to do, and you can see. But the Civic Center, there's not a lot of government employees, and there's a lot of common area that can be so well programmed for the general public. And so we're talking about Tai Chi, Zumba, badminton. Obviously, we're not going to put a soccer field, but basics of skateboarding, for example, that's a big need, and some of the hardscapes that we can have younger kids be taught of that, and just fun activities, a variety of different things. Next slide. So the steps to establish a Civic Center Regional Park. This concept that you're hearing today was presented to the City Council's Youth Education and Community Services Council Committee at their January 22nd meeting, and to the city's Recreation and Parks Commission at the February 28th meeting. Then the city manager had a conversation with the CEO, Frank Kim, about our concept, and it was well received. But this is just an informal introduction, basic first step. I reached out to the courthouse, and they seem very supportive. So I'm doing early outreach, if you will, to start getting in an informal sort of way, or maybe formal. I'm also informing the sheriff department, because the thing that I Parks and Rec has lead. I'm the director of Parks and Rec, is to be able to touch bases with all of the tenants in the Civic Center area, but also the surrounding neighborhoods, the Downtown Neighborhood Association, and also Washington Square, any neighborhood that is close to this area that should know that we're thinking of going in this direction, so that they can provide their feedback and their input. And so and now this is a formal presentation on this concept here in the Civic Center Authority. And then the last slide. So this is sort of the one of the high models of a civic center park, right? This for those of you that know about Chicago's Millennium Park, it took years and years and hundreds of millions of dollars, but you know the bean itself is in the hundreds of thousands. That's public art sculpture. So I've been to this park and it's beautiful. It's a civic center park. So obviously this place is smaller than Chicago's Millennium Park, but that's and it all started with a master plan. And so while I believe Parks and Rec is going to work with City of Santa Ana and Public Works to get a cost estimate on what it would be to do an RFP and how much would it cost to do a master plan that will then incorporate all of the tenants' feedback, the sheriff department, courthouse, the county, and then create this plan. And then we're going to have mechanisms to implement the stages of the development of the master plan. So we'll be this is a receive and file, because this is just kind of letting you know we're working on this, and we're going to continue knocking on tenants' door and the neighborhoods, so that on May the 2nd, which is the next regular Civic Center Authority, we will have a specific dollar amount, which I believe will probably be under $200,000. But I know because we just finished a zoo master plan, and that was close to $200,000. And I don't think this would be as expensive, but I don't know. I'm not the expert. I'm going to talk to our colleagues in city's public work to see what we might be able to do. So that's pretty much the presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Moet. Is there any question from the county side or from the vice chair regarding this, or comment?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Vice Chair Silsby. I just want to mention, and thank you, Gerardo, for the presentation, that the county is obviously undergoing a super block facility strategic plan, and we presented on that in the past, and we can bring that forward again if we need to, just for consistency of material. But secondly, I just want to let the board know that the staff is working on the budget that we will bring forward in May. So we are working hard at that because the numbers are higher than what we expect, with some requests from both the city and county. So we're trying to bring that down so that we have a kind of a stable funding level as it goes to each of our respected elective bodies. So I only say that in the context of we're higher than where we want to be on the targets. And if we're going to add more to that, we will have to then remove.
Let me just briefly respond, just so that you know, Shane. So recently, we were going through the regular exercise that we do every year with Parks and Rec staff working with county staff and saying this in particular. Once we establish the base operational cost for the Civic Center budget, which is what we normally expect, which is the maintenance and the security and so forth, that there's no surprises there. Then we add possible projects. Deferred maintenance projects, capital improvement projects, and there were some big ticket items, but it was very preliminary. Since that time, and you probably haven't gotten an update yet, I've asked Ron Ono to inform the county to remove the large ticket items, so it won't be as I think So that what was now getting close to 8 is now going to be significantly down, because what I asked was close to $4.5 million in total of projects to now some of them based after the risk assessment might need to come back, but we'll bring it back on May the 2nd. But right now I asked them to be removed, so it shouldn't be close to 8 million. It's gone down.
So thank you for that, Roger. I didn't mean to put you on the spot. I was just saying generally the staff is working on this. Our target is around 4. Actually, it was a little bit less than that last year, and that's split equally by the county and the city. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Thank you, Gerardo. And anything from the city manager on any comment or anything before I give my comments?
Mr. Chair, I just wanted to support the idea of a regional park, to start in that direction. I think my director and your member has made a very good case for what this could be. It could be a lot more than it's currently being used. And I know there's a vision to try to deal with some of the challenges that we have out there. This is a motivation to deal with those challenges probably sooner rather than later.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager. My brief comment is just that, yes, as we deal with those challenges that are out there in the Civic Center, I'm very supportive of having this declared a park. Just we can get funding for it also, but we have more control over it. We have hours of operation, and it's just very, very important to the whole public, not just the people that work in the Civic Center, but this is the county seat, and we do need to address that, and it needs a lot of work. So those are my final comments. We're going to receive and file. Is there any other, at this time, is there any comments from any of the staff or anyone here? Any final? Okay, with that, I will adjourn the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.